After the disaster that happened with Konami the previous generation, it seems like we could kiss Konami IPs goodbye. Silent Hill, Metal Gear, Castlevania were all to fall to the wayside. At the time, it seemed like such a crime that Konami would hold these IPs hostage. These are some of gaming's most treasured IPs, but now I am thrilled to say that these IPs are coming back. Silent Hill, Metal Gear, and honestly at this rate, probably Castlevania. It is both exciting and concerning, and that combination of mystery and complete and utter anxiety is exactly how I would describe Metal Gear Delta. And you are going to want to hit that subscribe button because today we're going to dive into this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. A remake that is being made without its founding father Hideo Kojima. Remakes nowadays are usually lauded for their ability to take drastic differences from their original source material. To bring these games into the modern era, they have to do more than just modernize the graphics. They're usually modernizing previous story elements, oftentimes to reflect the change in technology that's happened since these games originally launched. Now, Metal Gear Solid 3 was way ahead of its time for a PS2 game. That being said, when you play it nowadays, it still feels like a PS2 game. There are a lot of basic actions such as the feel of CQC, or just simply shooting a gun that will need a modern upgrade. This all being said, the developers of Metal Gear Solid 3 have clarified that they want to stick as close to the original as possible. In fact, they've stated that this is why they've decided to call the game Metal Gear Delta, with them even saying that, quote, the Delta symbol was chosen because its meaning fits the concept of the remake project. Delta means change or difference, without changing the structure. The overall sentiment here is that they want to deliver a one-to-one remake as closely as they possibly can. And I think that's pretty admirable considering that the only person that people would want to change Metal Gear's continuity is Hideo Kojima. Anything else will be met with harsh criticism. And regardless of how well this game manages to do this, we're still going to have people calling it a soulless remake. Whether or not that qualifies exactly as that, I'll let you guys decide. We also now know the developer behind Metal Gear Delta. When asked by a senior reporter at Kotaku, they had this to say, quote, in addition to Konami's development team who is involved in the development of the Metal Gear series, the game is fully supported by Virtuos, which is a development company that has been cooperating with the past Metal Gear series. Interesting to note here, and we'll come back to this, the past Metal Gear series. For those unfamiliar, Virtuos has helped support the development of such titles as The Outer Worlds, Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, Dark Souls Remastered, Jedi Fallen Order. While it's quite common for Metal Gear games to use their own proprietary engines, Konami discontinued Fox Engine back in 2020, and it seems that now the company, like so many others, will be using Unreal Engine 5. Game engine development is notoriously expensive, takes tons of money, and can easily force your game into development hell if there are issues with the engine. So it's actually probably for the much better that they don't use their own proprietary engine. Now, going back to the parts about the wording and how it distinctly calls this a new series, that makes total sense to me, and to me is a huge part of why they dropped the 3 from Metal Gear Solid Delta. I think they are going to attempt to remake all 4 mainline Metal Gear titles, and since MGS3 is the earliest in the timeline of those, it makes sense to me that they would start the series over with the earliest title chronologically. This also explains why there were so many conflicting rumors about this being a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. And in fact, if they're doing these remakes anything like how Square Enix, for example, is doing FF7, where these remakes are in development kind of at the same time overlapping, it might make sense that if Metal Gear Solid 1 remake is already in development. But if you think about remaking Metal Gear Solid 1 into a modern game, that's probably going to be the game that requires the most overhauling, which is why, to me, at some point, invariably, these remakes are going to face some harsh scrutiny from fans, from how much they've changed. And while those changes won't be quite the same as if Kojima was there, we can only hope that the people left at Konami who are in charge of this thing will end up respecting the heart and soul of Metal Gear. That being said, Kojima and Konami still follow each other on Twitter, so there is some small sliver of a chance chance of Kojima having some type of involvement in the project. And while I don't believe it will be a deep involvement like a director or producer role, it would be very smart of Konami business-wise to at least get the man to sign off on it with his approval. Whether he'll do that considering what Konami has done to him is an entirely different story though. Shout out to patron Nico and the rest of the Ultima community.